I came to Florida hoping that I could help people who had been affected by natural disasters, and I never really expected, ignorantly, that it could happen to me and my wife.
With our Coast Guard, by the nature of their job, they live where they work, and they work on the water.
My house was heavily damaged.
Pretty much everything was ruined.
Catastrophic home damage to include flooding, leaking windows, and roof damage.
My wife's car was destroyed.
A 60-foot oak tree hanging on by 5 or 6 roots over top of my daughter's room.
At that moment, really all we owned was what we had in the SUV that we had evacuated in.
Shingles all over the place, freezers full of food. What do you even do? And how about your house?
Coast Guard Foundation is here because we want to be there for Coast Guard members wherever and whenever they need support.
Sometimes those rescuers need to be rescued back.
We are always on alert for any weather system that will be affecting this country. We reach out to the commanding officers at those Coast Guard locations prior to these storms making landfall to assure that they understand that the Coast Guard Foundation is there for them and their members, that we have funding available, and how to access that funding.
Helene and Milton were both record storms, and both brought devastation differently to the community. Helene brought record surge, which for our Coast Guard members, families, and our facilities really did the bulk of the damage.
This is one of the office spaces in the helicopter hangar. We had approximately 2 feet of water throughout this hangar. We had evacuated to Palm Beach, and then immediately after the storm passed, we came back to see what kind of damage we were looking at. From video surveillance we had on the night before, we knew it was going to be bad.
Our units are devastated by storm surge and wind damage, and our members and families, their homes are devastated by those same elements.
Newly reported from Charleston, South Carolina into the region here. Before I could even get my household in order and get my household goods inside, the first hurricane hit.
And then 10 days later, Milton strikes.
And those people that had damage on their homes, it's not like they can call time out and raise their hand and say, hey, I want to sit this one out. We need everybody to go. So those same folks left their homes, some of them with no air conditioning, no power, flood damage. Their cars still soaked out in the parking lot, and they rogered up and grabbed another helicopter and left a week after.
You know, to hear that the Coast Guard Foundation is prepared to provide immediate grant support for our members is just a huge burden off of our members.
Got house damage, no power. Our neighborhood in particular flooded. We couldn't get out of our neighborhood for 2 days. A big piece of it is the financial burden at the tail end of it. Like, how much am I going to be out of pocket here? How much is this going to cost me?
The most important piece of this is to get the funding to those Coast Guard members and their families as soon as possible. Sometimes that happens within 48 hours.
I applied for the grant. I got the money about 2 days after that, and I was able to go and buy all the parts that I need to fix my car and get to and from work again. So it was very, very quick, very fast. It was nice. Over the course of this year, the Coast Guard Foundation has pushed out $1.2 million in emergency support for members.
Just this summer, we have responded to hurricanes here in the west coast of Florida. We've responded to tropical storms up the east coast. We've responded to flooding in Alaska and wildfires in California.
Before I arrived, the foundation had made a significant contribution to Sector St. Petersburg in terms of our morale facility and our training facility, which we call the Windjammer. Unfortunately, Hurricane Helene has undermined that building, and it will need to be demolished. The surge literally pulled the sand out from under the building, and the concrete foundation just cracked.
As a philanthropy officer at the Coast Guard Foundation, I work with some of our most loyal and consistent donors all across the nation, across all Coast Guard districts, and I get a lot of joy and satisfaction from that because I love to help. I love the Coast Guard, I love our donors. They're willing, they're excited, they want to help, they're grateful.
We have 26,000 donors to this organization. There are 26,000 people that are supporting what you guys do every day. And when there's a challenge in your life, you can find the Coast Guard Foundation to be there in times when you need it.
After we get through with the immediate concerns of the impact of these 2 terrible hurricanes, please know the foundation is also standing by for morale funding. so that when you can gather all the families back together again, that they can come together and celebrate all they've been through and all that has passed.
I appreciate that. The Coast Guard Foundation has helped us. You guys always get us the resources we need. And I appreciate that you check on us, not only when we're in need, but just see how we're doing. It shows all of our members that the Coast Guard Foundation appreciates the work we're doing and that you're also looking out for our welfare, whether it's a natural disaster or it's just everyday work.
From the bottom of my heart, and from my wife as well, we want to say thank you to the Coast Guard Foundation and the donors for everything that you've done to help my family in this tough time.
On behalf of my wife Ella and I, just from the bottom of our hearts, can't thank you enough, not only for what you've done for me and my family, but what we've seen and heard that you guys have done for so many other affected families.
I really care about doing a good job for the Coast Guard, and when I finally needed some help, the Coast Guard Foundation had my back.
The magnitude of what we lost is honestly eclipsed by the generosity that we've experienced through your foundation and the generosity of everyone who has donated to the foundation. I just extend my most sincere gratitude.
I cannot express enough the appreciation and the gratitude I have for the Coast Guard Foundation, its ambassadors and the contributors to it. It allows people like myself to not only be a better coastie, be a better service member, but be a better father and a husband and head of a household, knowing that I have these resources to take care of my loved ones while I'm out here taking care of the community's loved ones. So to that, Coast Guard Foundation, I thank you very much.
Thank you, Coast Guard Foundation.